Hello, horror fans and ghouls. Happy October 2020, and the fun just never stops, does it? This is going to be my review of Bride of Chucky from 1998, the fourth in the Child's Play franchise, or I guess the Chucky franchise, maybe, because obviously it went in bit of a different direction from this film onwards, which was really exciting. I remember seeing this film back at the time it came out, which was a year later in the UK, and I've watched it lots of times since. People who know me kind of know that this is my favourite of the Chucky series. I think certainly it's fair to say over the course of the first three Child's Play movie, I think they'd probably reached a limit on how much mileage they could get out of the series, and you can find my review of the first three films on the channel if you want to check that out. Get up to date. So I think they needed to do something fresh, and I think it made sense to go in a more funny, in the case of this film, more kind of satirical direction with the series. And of course, there's a couple of differences in this film. You have a new director. You have Ronnie Yu involved. He had a sort of a cult reputation, I think, at the time. He'd done some, obviously Japanese director, so he'd done some horror movies over there, which has kind of caught the eye. And later he would do like the 51st State. So he's done a few American films since this as well. I think this was probably his first film in America. Someone can correct me on that, but I think it was. Obviously, you've got Don Mancini involved, the original creator. He does the screenplay for this. And the other big addition is Jennifer Tilly, of course, making her debut as Tiffany. And I guess who would have thought all this time later she would still be involved in the franchise? And I'm pretty sure she signed on to star in the TV series, which is coming next year. I'm sure she is, because at this point the Chucky series wouldn't be the same without Tiffany. She has become such a big staple. So she debuts in this film, and the story is that she is an ex-girlfriend of Charles Lee Ray, who he obviously knew back when he was when he was still alive, or before he was in the body of Chucky. And he basically comes to visit her, and she like sort of buys him and is trying to like revive him and stuff, and sort of inject life into him without realizing exactly. And there's obviously a twist where he comes back to life, but then they have basically a falling out because she thinks he's a bit of a jerk, and he then ends up killing her in a very memorable death scene, electrocuted in the bath. Bit of a classic there. And that's when we get the plot where basically she ends up in a doll's body. So we get a second doll, and that becomes the issue of the film, because he obviously he has to get to a certain location to get out of his body, or out of the Chucky doll, and become Charles Lee Ray in human form. And she now wants to do the same. She wants to become human once again. So they kind of rope in these two youngsters, and one of them played by Katherine Hagel, who was very young at the time. I think this was one of her early film roles. She obviously would become known for Roswell a bit later, and sort of now in lots of romantic comedies really, but this was quite an early role for Katherine Hagel. you have her and her boyfriend. They're kind of like teen sort of sweethearts, but Tiffany is like the neighbour of the boyfriend. What was his name? I think it was Nick or so. I can't remember actually. I can't quite remember the boyfriend. But the whole plot thing is that they're roped into transporting the dolls across the country to like the cemetery where this whole ritual is supposed to go down, and he's promised money for it, and at the same time they're both trying to get away from her kind of manipulative, like I think he's like an uncle who's played by John Ritter, of course, and he's trying to control their lives, so they want to get away so they take the opportunity to get the money and run and start a new life, get married, all those things. But along the way, things don't quite run that smoothly as the bodies start to pile up. And when these bodies show up, and obviously it's Chucky and Tiffany doing their thing, then at one point they become, suspects. So it almost has this road trip type thing, but this kind of Bonnie and Clyde type feel with Chucky and Tiffany raising hell, and obviously a little bit of romance thrown in as well. And I absolutely enjoy this. I love this film. It's a rip-roaring, stylish film. I think I really like the style of it. There's some great visuals with like the thunder and bit of a noir feel, and just the look of it with the leather and stuff, and some of the kills. I think it has a very distinct look, which I guess may have dated a little bit with some of the music and some of the visuals. They feel very 90s, but that's cool anyway. I think they hold up pretty well. I think I really love the kind of Twin Peaks like esque music that they have, the main sort of theme. And yeah, I think it stylistically is quite different from the other Chucky movie, certainly up to this point. I think Ronnie Yu does bring some real visual flair to it, and I think it's just one of those really exciting, entertaining popcorn movies that just really, really rip-roaring and fun, and lots of funny gags, some entertaining kills, and obviously Tiffany and Chucky on great form. It's a really, really smart script. This is like a classic, like sort of almost postmodern fun twist, like almost like kind of the Scream for Child's Play movies, if you like. It obviously the title alone is referencing Bride of Frankenstein, which plays on the TV at one point, which is like absolutely great, and it knows its stuff. Obviously, one of the scenes that stands out is when the John Ritter character gets his comeuppance and he's killed with like the pins going in the face, and that Chucky sets them all up, and like whatever he does, he hits like a plank and they all go flying into his face, and Chucky looks at him and he's like, where have I seen that before? That looks so familiar. Obviously, like a Hellraiser expression, or reference. So this film really knows its horror background and it plays with it, and it just has so much fun, like sending the genre up and just playing with the audience. I think the way I look at it is that it's almost like the movie having almost a fun conversation with itself. It moves at a really good pace. It's about 90 minutes long, maybe a bit less, and I think that's the perfect sort of length for this kind of Sid and Nancy meets, Child's Play type movie. The chemistry is there, but as I said, there's just so much kind of really smart sort of humour. I like the early scene when Tiffany is with her boyfriend and with the Chucky doll, and he's like mocking it. And I think it's before he comes in. She's trying to do the spell to bring Chucky to life, and she's using like voodoo for dummies, which is such a great gag because I'm pretty sure that book probably doesn't exist, but it's just this fun gag about obviously this series of books that seem to cover like really silly things. You can certainly get it for most things. But yeah, there's all sorts of pop culture references. There's the ongoing gag about Martha Stewart. And one of my favourite lines of the movie is, of course, what would Martha Stewart say? Tiffany's like, Martha Stewart can kiss my big black shiny leather butt, I think she says, which is brilliant. But yeah, Jennifer Tilly delivers that line with such relish, such like verve. But yeah, there's all sorts of pop culture references. As I said, like the pinhead sort of reference with like the pins and the death. There's a great line actually from John Ritter's character at one point when he like pulls over Jade and whatever the boyfriend. Jade is the name of the Catherine Hagel character. Jade and her boyfriend pulls them over because they've tried to trick him because there's this they have like Warren, I think his name is, and David is like the sort of gay best friend. I think that's one of the things that actually dates the film. Is I think some of the stuff with him is just a bit of its time, a bit dated. I think they would be more careful to be a bit more sensitive now or sort of steer away. But, it is what it is. It was a 90s sort of thing. But anyway, she like pretends, or he pretends that he's taking her out and that he's actually straight and stuff. And obviously John Ritter sees through it, and it is quite funny actually that David pretending to be gay or pretending to be straight, sorry, and obviously him falling like flat on his face because there's this line about keep the orchid dry or something like that. But yeah, there's a great line actually in that scene from John Ritter's character about when he's kind of threatening because he's like the local chief of police and he's like, what if I produced the results that made you look like Christian Slater on New Year's Eve or something? And you think, oh my god, that's such a, like, at that point, such a cutting reference because obviously of Slater's like issues with like alcohol and stuff. So it's really a great sort of like cutting line, which only really works in the time frame. I think obviously you couldn't really joke about that now because it would just be dated. And there's all sorts of like sharp lines like that. I think they sort of made those little pop culture references, and there's just so much knowing humour for like horror fans because at the end when Chucky's finally about to be killed, he's like, go ahead, shoot me. I'll be back. I always come back. But dying sure is a bitch. So stuff like that. And there's another line a bit before that when he's like, it's a funny story or something, he says. I mean, if it was a movie, they would have to do like 2 sequels to do it justice. Just brilliant stuff. So it's a very enjoyable film, and I think the humour is a big part of that. Some good kills, as I said. I mean, I particularly enjoyed like the Pinhead kill and the reference to Hellraiser. I think also it's worth talking about Jennifer Tilly because she really embraces this role as Tiffany. She's put so much energy in it. The delivery of the lines is brilliant, and she's just really game throughout the film. And it's such a great addition to the series. You can tell she's really having a good time in the role. I think she brings enough heart to it as well, so that she's not just this throwaway kind of like vixen type character. I think there is a sweetness to Tiffany as well, and I think over the course of the film, there is this hint of like a sweetness in the relationship. And now I've always said this, and people give me funny looks, but the line when they're actually having sex, yes, that's a thing in this movie. The Chucky and Tiffany dolls, I should say, actually have sex at one point, and it's the whole thing about, hey, do you have a rubber? He's like, look at me, I'm all rubber. But the really great line is, as it's like coming towards the end scene, Chucky's like, is it just me, or am I starting to feel like Pinocchio? And god damn it, not only is that a great like reference, but it's like one of the romantic lines in a movie ever. I'm saying it now on this podcast. That is just so romantic. That's Chucky slash Charles Lee Ray's idea of romance, which is just great. And yeah, it's just brilliant. The tagline for the movie is "Chucky gets lucky," by the way, which is just so perfect. But yeah, I do think there's something there with Chucky and Tiffany. I think they, in their own ways, do love each other, even though often Chucky will run her down and is quite macho. He's quite cynical. I think there's this fun thing about them almost providing commentary from the side as they're watching the two like teenagers, and they're almost like giggling quite easily. Great chemistry, and Chucky obviously several times has like the maniacal laugh, which is brilliant. I think there's certain things that are dated about it. I think at times the plot is a bit contrived, but it's so much fun it doesn't matter. Actually, another really good kill, which I think I like even more than the like the Hellraiser one, like that reference is when Jade and her boyfriend go to like this motel, and it's like the honeymoon suite. They've just got married, but there's this tension between them because they both think each other is a serial killer. Basically, they meet like this sort of creepy like swinging couple who tried to seduce them, tried to have fun, and Chucky and Tiffany basically dispose of them. And it's mostly Tiffany because there's this great sort of shot where she basically throws the champagne bottle up into the mirror, like, because it's got one of those like mirrors above the bed type thing, and the shot is of Tiffany throwing the champagne bottle, and it spins and hits the mirror, and the kill is that the glass just breaks and floods down and hits them, cuts into them. It's a really well shot scene because the bed explodes as well. So that's a really fun kill actually, just the way it's shot, because they're like having sex at the time, and the guy suddenly just kind of looks in the mirror and sees Tiffany about to throw the body. He's like, which is really good. So actually, that's probably my favourite kill of the movie. I think probably maybe the only sort of complaint is that I think the teen characters, they're just not as interesting as like Tiffany and Chucky. It is very much their film in some ways, but you do get this quite long stretches with the teen characters. I think Katherine Hagel is fine actually. I think I've always thought she was probably better than some of her movie roles suggest. I thought she was pretty good in Roswell, and I think she's good here, actually. I think she does what she has to pretty well. The other guy, the guy playing her boyfriend, Jesse, that's his name, I've just remembered, Jesse. He's not so good. I thought he was pretty wooden, and I just wasn't as invested in their relationship as the stuff with Tiffany and some of the other stuff. It's fine, and I think it works because you've got, Tiffany and Chucky just raising hell along the way. So I think that's why it works, but that's just a small complaint. Overall, I really, really dig this film. And you obviously get the fun kind of twist at the end, which just adds a bit more absurdity. But I think this is obviously a franchise that needed freshening up, and I've watched this film many, many times because it is just such a fun film to stick on and just lose yourself in. And it's really, really smart and funny. So I think it was the sort of like kick up the backside then the franchise needed, because obviously Child's Play 2 was kind of the peak originally, and then 3 was a big step down, so it did need to go in a different direction. And I think unlike the Fright or the Freddy Krueger movies, where I think they ultimately suffered because he turned into too much of like a goofy like comic character. I think in this, obviously there's a line, and I think they do cross it a little bit in the next movie where it descended a bit too much into laughs. But I certainly think in the case of this, I think taking it in a more smarter comedic direction, I think made sense, at least starting with this film. So I really enjoyed Bride of Chucky. It may well be my favourite of the Chucky movies. I absolutely love Tiffany as a character, and I'm glad that she's still around now in the movies, in the forthcoming TV series. So I'm going to give the movie 8 out of 10. I really enjoy it. So let me know your thoughts of Bride of Chucky in the comments below if you've seen it. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Help me to keep the content coming. And I will continue to do or review the Chucky franchise throughout the year, because I started it last October, of course. And I will continue with Seed of Chucky next time, which should be coming up quite soon on the channel. But obviously many more horror reviews and live streams to come in the month of October. So I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.